We started with Wellington Castillo at number 10, Salvador Perez of the Royals at number 9, JT Realmuto of the Marlins was 6th, Francisco Cervelli of the Pirates dropping to number 7, Yadier Molina moving up 1 spot to number 6, and Russell Martin falling 3 spots, coming in still, though, in the top 5. Who will we see now at number 4? Formerly of the Washington Nationals, now with the Rays, it's Wilson Ramos. Ramos had a disappointing end to 2016, tearing his ACL just before the Nationals went into the playoffs. His body of work, though, was rewarded as the Rays, jumped in and signed him to a 2-year, $12.5 million free agent contract. He is going into his age 29 season and comes off a year with a weighted runs created plus of 124, the best such hitting mark among all catchers. Now to number 3, choice is getting tougher. This player making his shredder debut from the Los Angeles Dodgers, it's Yasmani Grandal. Grandal has been an outstanding pickup for the Dodgers. Last year, he led catchers with 27 home runs, slugged .477, and over the last 2 years, leads all catchers in framing pitches, well ahead of second-place Buster Posey. Grandal still just going into his age 28 season. And back to number 2. This catcher is finishing in the top 3 the last 2 seasons, now with the Texas Rangers. It's Jonathan Lucroy. Lucroy was big news at the trade deadline last year. He turned down a trade to the Indians, but had to accept a trade to the Rangers. He brought that elite offense to Texas immediately, ended up with a healthy .355 on base and with a .500 slugging percentage. Going into his age 31 season, Lucroy is going into a contract year. One guy's got to be number 1, and it's not a real surprise here. And still, the catching champ, number 1 catcher in the game, Buster Posey of the San Francisco Giants. Posey is one of the game's top stars, and deservedly so. He didn't have his best year last season, but even in an off year for him, he had a .362 on base and threw out 37% of attempted base stealers. Posey has also become one of the top pitch framers in baseball and was number 1 in framing metrics and defensive runs saved last year. Now, this is a volatile position, a lot of turnover, a lot of attrition. Posey, though, keeps on going. Over the last 5 years, Posey has the number 1 on base, slugging, OPS plus, and now defensive run save mark among all catchers in the game. Yeah, I mean, I did this, you did this. Still with not his best year, this is still the number 1 catcher in the game.
There's no question. I think by a fair margin. As you look at every analyst that's been on the show today, everybody had Buster Posey as number 1, and it's easy to understand why. This is a guy who does everything well. Everything that a catcher is asked to do, everything that an offensive player is asked to do, he does it exceptionally well. He's got tremendous power. One of the sweetest swings in the game of baseball. Again, a guy that doesn't have to pull the ball to drive it out of the ballpark. He goes left, center, and right field. But that swing to right field where he allows that ball to travel back and still have the ability to hit it out of the park is special in the game of baseball. One thing that I've seen since he got up to the big leagues as a rookie, for only half of the season, he has gained the respect of his pitching staff. He is a leader on this ball club, and the things that he does behind the plate, whether it's his athleticism. Remember, he was a shortstop who made the transition to behind the plate, a strong, accurate throwing arm, catches about 40% of the base runners right here. But Buster Posey is a guy that continues to improve. How? Number 1 in framing, number 1 in defensive run save. This is a former MVP. He's got 3 rings on his fingers. This guy does everything in the game. And BK, he's not just the best catcher in the game of baseball, but he's one of the best players in the game of baseball.
Yeah, I look at this WAR leaders now going back to 2012, and this is why WAR is valuable, because it can make the park effect adjustment, which is big. He plays in San Francisco, but how much does the defense and the catching and the position rating actually factor in? Huge. Just above Joey Votto, who's obviously a great hitter, McCutchen, and really just behind Paul Goldschmidt. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does, because one of the things that this guy does, he's a run producer. He's in a premier defensive position behind the plate. He adds so much. I know on this show, the Shredder can't really quantify the value of a catcher, of a leader, of a game caller. But in this situation, you look at the run of his club. 3 world championships with the San Francisco Giants. Buster Posey is in the middle of that all through that story.
By the way, Gary Sanchez would be number 2 if the Shredder could go with the plate appearances. But really, the sample size is too small.
It's very small.